Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Drop, and this is my first impressions look on the Anta Zap 2. So if you guys didn't know, Anta is a Chinese company and Kyrie Irving is signed to Anta. There's also a couple of other big names and also some other signature shoes from Anta, like Gordon Hayward and Klay Thompson. And of course we have Donte Divincenzo. I don't know why he has a signature shoe, but he does, and a lot of people didn't know he had a signature shoe. But yeah, if you guys didn't know, the Zap 1, his first signature shoe with Anta, was an absolute banger. One of the best performing hoop shoes of last year. And yeah, just a great overall all-around shoe, but very, very nice, especially for guards. And this shoe is only $100 on Famuji, but unfortunately the Zap 2, this colorway and also the Dark Knight colorway looks absolutely amazing. It's $170 on Famuji, and with shipping it's gonna be a little bit more expensive. So if you guys do want to cop either of these shoes, I'll try to leave in the affiliate link in the description box. But yeah, of course, yeah, for $100 the Zap 1 is a really, really nice shoe. And also, of course, in this colorway it is mismatched, although he did just get traded from the Knicks, so he's probably not going to be wearing this colorway. But yeah, let's get it started right off with the traction. So the traction pattern is pretty interesting. We have it literally goes perpendicular to the shoe. You know, we got lines going this way, and it's kind of like curvy lines with like some separations in between the line, right? We have the Anta logo right over here, and also some slits, and it says Zap right here with this plastic mid-foot chain plate, and also this pretty interesting pattern which is supposed to be the full length kind of plate, which we'll get into. But how does the traction feel on my wood floors? It feels really nice so far. If you guys didn't know, the Zap 1 had really nice solid traction, really good bite on the clean core, and also didn't really pick up that much dust. Of course, we'll have to see on the Zap 2 if it'll pick up dust or not, but the bite feels really nice so far on my wood floors. And also there's a really nice loud high-pitched squeak, which of course has nothing to do with performance, but whatever rubber compound they're using in this shoe, it's really, really loud. And for all my hoopers that like to have a loud squeak, this shoe's got you covered. And as far as the durability goes, durability feels like it'll be okay. The rubber is actually a little bit on the softer side, even though these grooves are a little bit thicker than normal, I would say. But there is a good amount of surface area. There's a good amount of grooves and a good amount of rubber, so I feel like it'll be okay on an outdoor court. So the traction is feeling really good so far, and I really like it, just like the Zap 1. And now moving on to the heel to toe transition, it feels really nice, right? So here in the heel, we have a nice rounded shape, of course, but also we have a fully exposed midsole, right? So we can see that it's not caged at all here in the back of the heel. So it allows for a good amount of compression here. So even when you do kind of like hard impacts, you know, doing heel dominant strides, it just feels really soft and smooth here in the heel, which of course is great, you know. And then coming here to the forefoot, we have a nice rocker shape as well. So just from the overall shape, it feels nice, and also the heel is super smooth. And also we have a good amount of forefoot flex, right? And also it bends a little bit here in the midfoot, which is kind of weird, right? Not a huge issue. If you need torsion support, of course, this shoe is not going to be the best for you, but it does have a good rebound back, right? So the overall heel to toe transition and how the shoe feels is really, really fluid and very soft feeling, right? Especially with the upper. And now moving on to the cushioning setup. So the cushion is really nice, right? So as far as the overall foam goes, I'm not 100% sure what this foam is. I mean, it's a Chinese company and it's pretty hard to get the tech specs. Every single Chinese site that I went to, they all said something different, you know. So some even said Smart Sam and Alti Flash, which is, I don't see it at all. And so obviously some were saying nitrogen foam or N2 foam or a nitro edge, and it literally says nitro edge right here, so it's probably nitro edge, but that's not nitro edge, right? So this foam, I'm not 100% sure, but whatever it is really, really soft, right? So first of all, the court feels really good, right? I would say the court feel is better than the Zap 1. The Zap 1 still had good court feel, but it is a little bit lower to the ground here in the Zap 2, which feels nice, right? However, comparing it to the Jaw 2, the Jaw 2 has really, really good court feel. Like you're right on top of the ground, just like the Sabrina 2s. So I would say the Zap 2 is just a tiny bit higher up off the ground, especially in the heel, but it's still really good for court feel here in the Zap 2, right? It's just the Jaw 2 is just really, really good. And of course, comparing it to a shoe that has really good and very soft cushion, we got the Kai 1, of course, and this shoe is just really well cushioned, but it is higher up off the ground. So this has the worst court feel out of all these shoes. It's still like just average court feel for the Kai 1, and then the Zap 1, and then the Zap 2, and then the Jaw 2, or just like some shoes that I had laying around, right? So yeah, the court feel is really nice here in the Zap 2. But also we have a lot of compression here in the heel. It's really, really soft, right? So that feels really nice and very comfortable. And I really like it because I feel like if the actual foam was a little bit thicker, and if you were a little bit higher up off the ground, this foam would be too soft and it would be a little bit unstable, I feel like, right? But because they did make it a little bit thinner, and because the core feels really good, it doesn't feel that unstable right now. Of course, I'm gonna need to play in it, but just from walking around and just from my first impression, it feels overall pretty stable, right? And then as far as the insole goes, the insole's actually pretty trash. You know, it's really thin. It's like, I don't know, it's the thinnest insole. It's even thinner than like the Adidas crappy insoles that Adidas has. It's even thinner than that, which is fine because I feel like, you know, if the insole was thicker, you wouldn't be able to feel what's underneath the insole. So because of this thinner insole, it's easier to feel what's underneath, and underneath it's absolutely freaking amazing, right? So we have full length N2 foam or Nitro Edge. And we have a very soft mesh strobe board, just like in the Zap 1, right? So the Zap 1 had the same thing, but we did have a top-loaded midfoot shank plate, right? And I guess it is better for torsional support in the Zap 1. However, I mean, we do have a bottom-loaded midfoot shank plate, but with this soft mesh strobe board, it's really soft and very comfortable for step-in comfort and underfoot cushioning for the full length of the foam, right? So in the heel, in the midfoot, and also in the forefoot, because there's no top-loaded midfoot shank plate, right? So the step-in comfort is absolutely amazing. Underfoot cushion feels great. There's nice compression. Court feel feels really nice. And I'm guessing impact protection is probably going to be pretty good. Probably not the best for impact protection because the foam is a little bit thin, but probably a lot better than a lot of other shoes out there, right? So yeah, the cushioning setup is really nice, and you're getting maximum cushion for how low to the ground you are. And that's what I love about Anta and like Chinese companies. They're really upgrading their cushioning setups, especially comparing it to like Nike. You know what I mean? Like it is a little bit, you know, nicer, and it's a little bit upgraded from like 5-10 years ago for a Nike hoop shoes, but it's still not on par with like, you know, Anta, you know, and way of weight and stuff like that. So yeah, the cushioning setup super duper nice. I really like it. And now moving on to the upper. So the upper is really thin. So we have a mesh material pretty much, and it's kind of like triple layered, right? So if you look all the way underneath, there is a mesh material, and then we have this kind of like curved line pattern, and that's kind of like an underlaying material, and then over all of that we have this plastic kind of like screen mesh material, right? But they're all really thin, so it's still a really, look at this, just a really thin material. Not the most supportive feeling, especially here in the toe box, but you don't really need support on top of your toes as much, as long as it's not terrible. It's not a huge deal for me personally. We also have a nice bit of fuse going around the tip of the toe, right? So yeah, it feels really nice here in the toe box, extremely minimal, conforms to your foot really well. Of course, like I said, it's not the most supportive upper. And then here in the midfoot, however, it's not the most supportive material either. So we'll have to see on how the overall upper feels when I play in it, especially on lateral movements, even though all the lateral counters are there, right? Also here in the midfoot, we have, it kind of reminds me of like the Luka 1s, you know what I mean? But we have this kind of like cord that's stitched to this material, and it kind of goes and loops around, right? And same thing here on the medial side. For the tongue, we have very minimal padding. It's not very well padded, and it's also a half booty construction tongue, giving you a better overall one-to-one fit. And also you can see how the cords are stitched to this material if you look underneath this upper. And then here in the ankle area, we also have very minimal padding. Like on the sides, it's very minimal, and also in the back of the heel, there's a little bit more padding, but overall it's extremely minimal, right? And we have in the heel a very shiny and very reflective external TPU heel counter in both of the shoes, of course. And we have the number 0 for, of course, Donte's number. But yeah, the overall upper is just a really minimal, very thin feeling upper that feels like it'll lack a little bit in support. We'll have to see, of course, right? Right here in the Zap 1, it even feels a little bit stiffer here in the midfoot. But here in the Zap 2, it's just really thin. And compared to like the Donte 6, where it has that, you know, that TPU that stiffens up the upper, we'll have to see on how the Zap 2 fares for kind of like hard lateral movements and stuff like that. But overall, it's just a very minimal feeling upper. Not a super durable feeling upper, however, right? Especially here in the toe box, but with the fuse, you should be a little bit more covered. So there's that. Moving on to the fit. So I went true to size, and there's a little bit of length, just a tiny bit, right? And I would say it's around the same as the Zap 1, but it's a little bit more roomy, like where the tip of my toes are, especially like right over here. So I definitely noticed the length a little bit more, especially comparing to the Zap 1. The Zap 1 is a little bit more snug here in the toe box, so I don't really mind a little bit of extra length. But for the Zap 2, I don't really like the extra length. It just feels a little bit more roomy at the tip of the toe, probably because this mesh material is just so soft, you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's a little bit weird, right? So I would probably recommend going true to size for most people, but if you want a really snug fit like here in the toe box and also lengthwise, maybe go down half a size, but just be careful with that because it's not even that long. And also here in the back of the toe box, it's not super snug either, you know, but it's like normal snugness, but like at the tip, it's a little bit more roomy, right? And also here for the width, it's around a normal width. It's not super narrow, it's not wide. So a width is fine, it's just I don't really like that all too much. We'll have to see on if my foot moves around inside of the shoe while I'm playing in it. And also, like I said, with this material, it doesn't feel super supportive, and that now segueing into support and lockdown. So lateral containment, so I don't feel like, you know, my foot is gonna come out of the footbed at all because all the necessary lateral counters are there. So we have here in the forefoot, we got this plastic piece, right? We got the Anta logo right there, and it just comes up acting as a sidewall. So your foot is probably not gonna come out of the footbed. It's a pretty prominent and pretty strong plastic piece, right? Also here in the heel, we have an external TPU heel counter. So your foot is not gonna come out of the footbed. However, here in the midfoot, it's a really thin and very soft material. And also here in the toe box, it's really soft and doesn't feel super supportive, right? And also with the toe box, like at the tip of the toe being a little bit roomy, hopefully my foot doesn't move around inside of the shoe too much. But with all of that kind of like combined together, we'll have to see on if the overall upper is supportive enough for me. Right now it's feeling okay. It's just the Zap 1 feels a little bit better, you know what I mean? Like this overall kind of screen mesh, it just feels a little bit less kind of stretchy, and also here in the midfoot it feels a little bit more glued down, you know what I mean? So and there's a support and lockdown there. Moving on to the weight of the shoes. So they said this shoe is one of their lightest tube shoes, and I believe them. It feels extremely light. So it comes in at 10.75 ounces, guys. Let's check the other shoe. 10.7 ounces. So the average weight of my shoes is around 12.5 ounces. So it's almost 2 ounces lighter than average, which is extremely lightweight. Let's check it comparing to the Zap 1, which is 12 ounces. So they shed off a lot of weight for the Zap 2, but I feel like they maybe might have done a little bit too much and sacrificed a little bit too much support. But again, we'll have to see. I'm gonna need to fully test these out, of course. But yeah, it's just feeling like a really minimal and also really nice guard shoe. And also the cushion's feeling really nice. Like I said, they're giving us maximum cushion, it feels like, for the amount of core feel that we're getting. So there's that. Moving on to the aesthetics, I really like it. The design looks great. Not a huge fan of like this colorway. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like orange and blue is just not my color, but the overall design looks great. And also, like I said, the Dark Knight colorway looks absolutely amazing too. I feel like it looks a little bit better than the Zap 1. So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, yes, I am very excited to try these out, and they feel really nice, right? I'm really liking the traction. The cushion feels great. The upper feels really minimal and thin. And also the overall shoe is extremely lightweight. But the only thing I'm worried about, of course, is the support, right? Hopefully it's supportive enough for me. And if it's not, it's probably not gonna be supportive enough for most people, you know what I mean? But I'm hoping it's around or on par with like the PG6, you know? For example, like the PG6 wasn't the most supportive shoe. It wasn't the most supportive upper, but it was adequate enough for me, where I didn't really mind it too much. So I'm hoping the Zap 2 is gonna feel like that, but we'll have to see for the full performance review. But that about wraps it up for my first impressions look on the Anta Zap 2. Again, if you guys do want to cop, I try to leave in the affiliate link in the description box, but also definitely do not sleep on the Zap 1 because it's $100. Again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.